In this video, I'll be attempting to beat Pokemon Ultra Sun in a hardcore Nuzlocke using only Fairy type Pokemon. Here are the rules that I'll be using, so just pause the video if you want to have a read. Also, I'll leave them in the description. We load the game and we have some grown men chasing down a young girl until she's cornered by two Space Rangers and then she teleports away. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Pokemon Ultra Sun starts. Pretty wild in comparison to other Pokemon games. Now it's time to pick the starter, and Popplio is the only choice as it eventually evolves into a Fairy type. We reset the game for a while and then we get one of the most disappointing shinies in all of Pokemon. It's like Game Freak just increased the contrast on this thing and it was like, that's good enough. I name it Palutena, who I know is a female, but after resetting so many times you don't even think about the gender. We then need to save Nebby from a bunch of birds circling around it, and this thing just decides to blow up the flippin' bridge. Seriously, Nebby? I would have much rather have taken my chances with a few birds over having the bridge blowing up and falling to our death. Thankfully we are saved and we can actually start our adventure. Now quickly, just like my other shiny monologue videos, I am playing a modded version of the game that has increased shiny odds. Now we have to battle against a teacher, and she seems to be impressed that we were able to beat her pretty useless students in Pokemon battles. Palutena first drops Rowlet's attack with a baby doll eyes, while taking a Leafage in return doing minimal damage. Next I work up to raise my attack and special attack, while another Leafage almost takes me to half health. From here I can simply use Disarming Voice over and over, while also recovering with an Oran Berry to get the win. Okay, today is the day that I can officially call myself a real YouTuber. Why, you ask? Well, that's because today's video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Let me tell you a few things about this game. Raid Shadow Legends is a free to download mobile and PC game that has over 600 champions that you can use to battle your way through multiple game modes. Make sure you use my links below to download Raid yourself onto your mobile phone. So some of my favourite champions include Cadell from the Sacred Order, then there's Vergus from the High Elves, and last but certainly not least, Inquisitor Shamel from the Sacred Order. Oh, and if you thought this game would be a walk in the park, then let me introduce you to the newest boss added into the game, Hydra. This mythical beast has 6 heads, all with different abilities. The head of Wrath literally gets stronger when you continue to attack it. Another head you need to keep your eye on is the head of Mischief. This will steal any buffs you cast on your champions and then spread them amongst the other Hydra heads. Also, the head of Blight will poison your team and create a poisonous cloud, making it even harder to land your attacks on this thing. Other heads include the head of Suffering, the head of Torment, and the head of Decay. So good luck with that, you're gonna need it. Wait, you mean a super crazy Hydra boss isn't enough? Well, that's okay, because there's more. Raid have now made esports legend Simple a super limited edition champion. All you have to do is log in for 7 days between now and January 28th and he's yours. And in case you thought this deal couldn't get any better, if you use my link in the description or scan my QR code, you'll get a free starter pack worth almost $30 to kickstart your game. We're talking a free champion Vergus, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get into the game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here and will be available for all new players to claim for the next 30 days. Now we need to deal with Captain Alima, and the battle gets pretty sweaty. I raise my attack and special attack by 2 stages with work up while taking a couple of big tackles from Yungoos. I then follow up with a water gun, taking Yungoos below half health while it goes for another tackle, prompting my Oran Berry and healing me back up into the green. One more water gun takes out the Yungoos and in comes her ace, Smeagol. Thankfully Leafage doesn't hurt too much, and after a couple of hits I'm able to survive on 7 HP and deliver the finishing blow, winning the battle. As I'm desperate to add another team member as Palutena is getting close to the level cap, I spend some time running around in the grass until I find a cutie fly. He's named Jaden and he jumps straight into the team. We head to the first trial and we waste no time heading straight to Totem Gumshoes. I lead with Palutena and I start dropping its attack with a couple of baby doll eyes. Then I start using Disarming Voice, hitting both Pokemon 3 times thanks to the reduced attack and the Oran Berry recovery that I get. Jaden then tags in and can finish off the Gumshoes with a few struggle bugs, beating our first Totem Pokemon in the game and getting a Z Crystal. Before the grand trial, we run into these yellow flowers and we grab ourselves a shiny Cottony who are named Pogs. We face off against Hulla, who uses fighting types, and as you'd expect, my fairies can deal with him pretty easily. Pop's Leech Seeds Machop and then uses Growth to get to +6 in attack and special attack while staying healthy from the Leech Seed. From here, all his Pokemon fall to Pops, giving us a clean victory. We grab another Z Crystal for the collection, and Hella then decides to start shadowboxing in front of us for some reason. Before I ditch my mum and the island, there's one more encounter I want to grab. After a bit of time, we come across another underwhelming shiny, Carbink. He's named Cobalt, and we surf on a Mantine to the next island. As we make our way to the next island, Palutena evolves into Brioni, whose shiny is still pretty lame. Hopper and I then have a standoff at Panola Ranch, which doesn't go well for him. Cobalt takes out both his Torracat and his Pikachu with a few smackdowns. Then Palutena switches in to take care of Noibat with a disarming voice, and then his Eevee with a couple of water guns. The game then introduces us to Gladion, and this guy is angry. Lana then wants us to deal with a totem Pokemon in the lake, which happens to be Araquanid. I lead with Pops and I land a Leech Seed on the Araquanid. Jupiter comes out and Pops also hits a Leech Seed on that Pokemon. From here, Pops can stay healthy with leftovers, double Leech Seed and protect, while both Araquanid and Jupiter slowly lose their health. Eventually they both fall to Leech Seeds and absorbs from Pops, giving us the win and more importantly another Z Crystal. Lana then teaches us another dance move that will actually be useful for the next trial. Before I go to take on the fire trial, I want to add another team member. In round 4 and 6 you get the chance to capture an Igglybuff or an Eevee. After a little while I do run into a shiny Igglybuff, which is another lazy shiny I might add. Once caught, I name her Blank. Then I spent probably over 6 hours looking for a shiny Eevee in route 4 and I just could not find one. The only good thing about the failed hunt is that Blank's happiness maxed out and evolved into a Jigglypuff. I head to Wella Volcano where the fire trial awaits and I come face to face with Totem Marowak. Marowak goes for Detect as expected, allowing Palutena to set up Rain Dance for free. I then go for a Hydro Vortex Z move, which absolutely destroys the Totem Marowak in a single hit. Salazzle desperately tried to take me out with a Venoshock, but I survive and finish off the battle with a Water Pulse in the rain. Adding another Z Crystal for the collection and learning a new dance move from the man himself, Kiawe. I decided that I need another shiny Pokemon for the next trial, and after a bit of perseverance, I run into a shiny Morel who I named Dex. Oh, I wonder who lives in here. Oh hey Gladion. Okay then. Dex then evolves into a Shinotic, and now we have a full team for the next trial. Mallow then whips up a special dish, which eventually stinks so much that Totem Lurantis makes a special appearance. I lead with Jaden, who gets hit with an X-Scissor doing decent damage, but Jaden is able to hit Lurantis hard with a Signal Beam. This is important as Lurantis will now call on Comfey as our ally Pokemon and not Kecleon, who could lower our defenses with Screech. I then switch in Pops, whose only job is to land a Leech Seed on the Comfey. Jaden then comes back in and he's able to stay healthy because he resists all the moves and has leftovers Leech Seed and Protect. Eventually Lurantis runs out of Synthesis and Jaden can take it out. Not long after, Comfey also goes down and we have another Z Crystal in the bag along with a new dance move that Mallow teaches us. Jaden also evolves into a Ribombee and is now even stronger. With the trials completed, we can now take on the Island Kahuna, Olivia. Dex is a great counter for Olivia's team and can easily stay healthy using Ingrain, Moonlight and Leftovers. On top of that, Mega Drain does decent damage and also heals him. The fight is slow, but Dex eventually takes out all of Olivia's Pokemon. With that victory, we get the last Z Crystal on the island and Olivia decides to start doing bodybuilding poses instead of a dance. We get to the next island and Hop wastes no time wanting another battle. Palutena doesn't mess around and hits Torracat with a massive Hydro Vortex, taking it out in a single hit. Jaden can then take out the Leafeon with ease using a Pollen Puff. Noibat comes in and Jaden can give him a kiss, which also recovers his health back to full. Raichu is next and another Pollen Puff absolutely destroys it. Last is his Taurus, and this thing can't do anything to Cobalt, so I switch him in and he eventually chips down the Taurus, getting the win. As we head towards the next trial, we go through a few Cleffers so I can steal a Moonstone, allowing me to evolve Blank into a Wigglytuff. We head to the next trial, and after a failed experiment, this thick boy comes in to try and save the day and is absolutely pissed at me. I lead with Pops, who is holding an Eviolite to double her defenses. The first turn, Toji Damaru uses a spiky shield, blocking my Leech Seed attempt while also bringing in Skarmory. Toji Damaru then hits like a truck with an Iron Head, bringing Pops into the yellow. Pops then lands a Leech Seed, which is big, while Skarmory goes for a Tailwind, raising their speed. At the end of the turn, Pop gets some Leech Seed recovery, which is vital. Then Pops protects to get that extra Leech Seed recovery, bringing him to a healthy amount. Not sure if Pops could survive another hit, I take the risk and I go for a Leech Seed on Skarmory and it lands. Then a massive Iron Head from Togedemaru hits Pops and leaves me on 3 HP. Skarmory then goes for Stealth Rocks, allowing Pops to live. I protect on the next turn to do some chip damage on both Pokemon before bringing in Blank. From here, Blank can stall out both Pokemon with double Leech Seed recovery, leftovers and protect, while also raising his defenses with Stockpile. We get another Z Crystal for beating the troll, and most importantly, learn a new dance move. Palutena then evolves into a Primarina, and now this Pokemon is officially a Fairy type. Guzma then decides to disrespect the Professor, so I give him an old-fashioned beating without breaking a sweat. He kinda loses his mind, but I leave him alone and continue on. On the way to the next trial, we find a Sunstone, and Pops can now evolve. In the abandoned site, we run into AC Roller, and she tries to get us to leave.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving!
We ignore her and we take on Totem Mimikyu. I lead with Pops, who takes big damage from a Play Rough, but is also able to land a Leech Seed on the Totem Mimikyu. On the next turn, I protect to get some extra Leech Seed and leftover recovery, bringing me to a healthy amount. Mimikyu then hits another big Play Rough and I'm back in the yellow. Pops then hits a Leech Seed on Vanette, but it retaliates with a curse, taking half of its own health and cursing Pops. Even with a double Leech Seed and leftovers recovery, I do not heal enough to stay healthy in this fight, so I switch in Golbat, who can stall out for a while until Vanette faints and Jellicent comes in. Worried that Jellicent can do some serious damage with a Water Pulse, I switch in Dex, who gets destroyed by a Play Rough and a Nightshade. If he had just 2 extra HP, he would have survived that. From here, Pops gets a clean switch in and gets some recovery through leftovers and Leech Seed. Popson barely survives a Play Rough from Mimikyu as he's left with 3 HP. Thankfully, he uses a Mega Drain on Jellicent to heal him enough to survive a Nightshade that does exactly 33 damage. One more Protect takes out the Mimikyu with Leech Seed, beating him without even breaking his disguise. Jellicent then also goes down to one more Mega Drain from Pops. We grab another Z Crystal, and then AC Roller shows us how we need a dance to use this move. I then spend some time looking for another Pokemon, and somehow I run into Shiny Mimikyu. To be honest, both Mimikyu and Klefki would have been good, so I would have been happy either way. I name him Blocky, and we continue on. Now normally I wouldn't show a fight with Plumeria, but unfortunately I underestimated the fight and I went in unprepared. Clearly she has EV trained Pokemon with perfect IVs, as Jaden is outsped and gets hit with a big wing attack, almost taking him out. Seriously, I did not expect a Golbat who has a 90 base speed to outspeed a Rabombi who has 124. Thankfully he does survive, doing a good amount of damage with Psychic, but it's not enough. I switch in Golbat, who can eat a wing attack on the switch in. Golbat then goes for a Poison Fang and I take minimal damage, but then I get badly poisoned, which is horrible. To make things worse, an Ancient Power hits a low roll and Golbat survives on 1 HP. I do take out the Golbat on the next turn with another Ancient Power, but still Golbat is in no condition to continue the fight against her Salazzle. I need a clean switch into Blocky, so I have no choice but to bring in Blank, who gets absolutely destroyed with a Sludge Bomb. Mimikyu comes in and then properly avenges Blank's death, taking out the Salazzle. Honestly, it sucks that I lost a Pokemon because I didn't take the fight seriously, but the show must go on. I need to add another team member, so I spend some time hunting until I finally find a shiny Floette, who I can catch and name Soup. We clear through some grunts and we make our way to the boss, Guzma. The fight is fairly straightforward and we can take out all of his Pokemon comfortably with Pops and Cobalt. We then head back and Lily has been captured. Gladion is furious with us and wants to have a battle. Thankfully he's not too much trouble to deal with and we can move on. We now have our grand trial fight against Kahuna Nanu. And as you'd expect, a Dark-type trainer isn't going to be too difficult for a Fairy-type Pokemon. A Moonblast from Palutena destroys a Sableye in a single hit. Palutena then follows up with a Sparkling Aria, taking out the Crocorock. Last is a Alolan Persian, so I bring in Pops who can deal with it. We get our last Z Crystal for the island, and Nanu teaches us the weirdest dance yet. Next up is Aether Paradise, and Gladion wastes no time as he heads straight towards Guzma. Really, how? A billion? Clearly they don't teach maths at Alola. We head towards Guzma and unsurprisingly, Gladion couldn't beat him and it's up to me to save the day. I lead with Pops who protects the first turn, blocking the first impression from Golisopod. I then follow up with a Leech Seed while taking a Razor Shell from Golisopod. Eventually I trigger its emergency exit and Vikavolt comes in. I hit Vikavolt with a Leech Seed and then take big damage from a Flash Cannon. I switch in Blocky, who loses his disguise on the switch in. A Shadow Claw does good damage, but a Flash Cannon from Vikavolt hurts just as much. Thankfully, I outspeed and I can take it out on the next turn. Pinsir switches in and this thing can't touch Cobalt. Cobalt eventually takes him out with a few ancient powers. Golisopod makes his return and Cobalt finishes him off with another ancient power. Last is Masquerain, who also can't touch Cobalt, and we can finish the fight. We then find out that Lusamine is a complete whack job who keeps frozen Pokemon like they're items in a museum. Not having any of that, we take her on. I waste no time and I go for a Hydro Vortex on a Clefable, bringing it to the yellow. Clefable does hit with a Hyper Voice, but that barely tickles Palutena, allowing me to finish off Clefable on the next turn with a Sparkling Aria. Lusamine then brings in Lilligant, so I switch in Jaden, who takes massive damage from a not very effective Petal Dance on the switch. Thankfully, I did the calcs and Jaden can outspeed and take out the Lilligant with a Pollen Puff. Lopunny is next to tag in, so I switch in Cobalt, who can eat the hits well and then take it out with a few Power Gems. Next is Milotic, and Pops can come in and take it out with a few Giga Drains and Leech Seed. Last is her Beware, and just like Milotic, I Leech Seed this bear and slowly take it out. Lusamine then completely loses the plot and jumps into a warp hole, and for some reason Guzma thinks it's a good idea to join her. We make our way to the last island and there's only a few more trials to complete. On the island we find ourselves a shiny stone and we can evolve Soup. With our fully evolved team we are now ready for the next trial, Totem Komao. This trial I just used Cobalt to Toxic Store while using Leftovers and Protect, and eventually Komao does fall and we get our hands on another Z Crystal. Palutena is then able to take out the possessed Necrozma before we fly out to Ultra Megalopolis on the back of Lulana. Once here, we're asked to take on Ultra Necrozma, and there's only one way I could do this. Toxic Store. Palutena eats a Photon Geyser from Ultra Necrozma and then lands a Toxic, badly poisoning it. Toxic takes 6 turns to take out a Pokemon, so I switch between Palutena, Soup and Blocky, all being able to take an attack and then protecting to get the job done. After saving both worlds, I continue on with my island challenge and take on Mina and her fairy types. Thankfully she's easily dealt with and we can continue on with the trial. She asks me to fight a bunch of troll captains, again who are all easily dealt with. Well, all but one. Sophocles did make this pretty hard and this is how the battle went. I lead with Jaden and I set up a Quiver Dance for free as Togedemaru goes for a Spiky Shield. Jaden goes for one more Quiver Dance and now his special attack, special defense and speed are doubled. Togedemaru responds with a Zigzag doing heavy damage on Jaden. Jaden then hits back with a Hidden Power Fire and Togedemaru is taken out. A Alolan Golem comes in, so I switch in Pops who dodges a Stone Edge. Pops then brings Golem down below half health with a Giga Drain, and then Golem is obviously nervous as he misses another Stone Edge, allowing Pops to take him out on the next turn. Last is his Magnezone, and this thing will destroy Pops with a Flash Cannon, so I switch in Palutena who takes a hit well. I then Encore Magnezone into Flash Cannon as I don't want to be hit with a discharge from this thing. I protect on the next turn to get some leftover recovery, and now Palutena has enough HP to hit the Magnezone with a Sparkling Aria while taking a non-critical Flash Cannon in return. Palutena then can outspeed and finishes off the Magnezone, beating the only difficult captain. We head back to Mina and now we have to take on our last Totem Pokemon, Totem Ribombee. Ribombee uses Dazzling Gleam, which Cobalt takes well, then follows up with a Toxic. Pelipper is called in and with it the Rain. Ribombee goes for a Quiver Dance, which is scary as Pelipper uses a stockpile to raise its defenses. Cobalt lands a Rock Slide, hitting both for minimal damage. Cobalt then protects a stall at the Ribombee, and this thing punishes me by going for another Quiver Dance. Pelipper then goes for a Scald, which I'm protected from. I switch in Soup, who's a special defense monster, and he takes a Dazzling Gleam and a Rain boosted Scald well. However, Soup gets burnt from the Scald, which is annoying. Thankfully, one more Protect is enough to take out the Ribombee with Toxic, and then we can finish off the Pelipper, giving us a Fairy Z Crystal from Mina, along with her dancing lessons. Our last trial is against Hapu, and this thing is a walk in the park for Soup. Soup sets up a Calm Mind, raising a special attack and special defense, while Gerlach throws the fight by using Stealth Rocks. From here, Soup trips up the Gerlach with a Grass Knot. Mudcell comes in next, and this thing is also tripped up by a Grass Knot, as is the Gastrodon that follows afterwards. Last is Flygon, and a Moonblast sends this thing straight back to Hapu, finally getting our last Z Crystal in the game, while also learning how to do a superhero pose from Hapu. Gladion meets us on the way to the Pokemon League, and to be honest, he's not too difficult. We take care of his Pokemon pretty swiftly, and then I see Gladion smile for the very first time in my life. With that all done, we can finally head to the Pokemon League and we can begin our journey to become champion. I decided that AC Roller would be the easiest one to start with, so I go with her first. Blocky sets up with a workup, raising his attack, while Burnett goes for a Screech. I go for one more workup and now I'm at +2 attack, basically winning me the match. First of all is Burnett, who goes down to a Shadow Claw from Blocky. Delmize comes in, but this ship anchor is helpless and falls to a Shadow Claw. Frostlass is faster, but a priority Shadow Sneak allows me to go first and get the KO. Polysand is a thick girl, but a +2 Shadow Claw is too much for this sandcastle. Drifloon can do nothing as it comes in only to leave just as quickly, giving us our first Elite Four win. Next I decide to take on Olivia and a Rock type Pokemon. I lead with Palutena and a Sparkling Aria takes out the Armaldo in a single hit. Credillia is next, so I switch in Pops who can eat everything Credillia can throw at us. Olivia did heal a Credillia a couple of times, but eventually Pops can take it out with a Giga Drain. Gigalith switches in and Pops can take it out with a Leech Seed and Giga Drains. Olivia then brings in Lycanroc and Colbert can easily switch in and Toxic stall it. Last is Probobust, so I switch in Pops to Leech Seed it as it can't be poisoned. Then I bring in Palutena to stall it out while hitting it with Sparkling Arias. Next we have Kahili, the Flying type master. Cobalt with Leftovers and Protect basically walls her entire team. Braviary is the first to fall with a couple of Rock Slides from Cobalt. Halutra is next and it eventually falls to Poison and some Power Gems from Cobalt. Mandibuzz is also dealt with the same way and eventually falls to Toxic and Power Gems. Toucannon is next to come in and even lands its Z move doing laughable damage, before going down to a couple of Power Gems. Last is Oricorio, and one last Power Gem is all that's needed to put an end to Kahili's burns. Our final member is Morlane and his Steel types, and boy this was sweaty. He leads with Klefki and it goes for Spikes. Palutena then hits Klefki with an Encore, being locked into Spikes. Morlane then switches out Klefki and brings in Magnezone, who gets brought down to its sturdy with a critical hit Sparkling Aria. Morlane then full restores a Magnezone, allowing Palutena to take out the Magnezone with 2 more Sparkling Arias. Dugtrio is next and I get hit with a crit Earthquake, which makes things bad, however Palutena can take it out with a Sparkling Aria. Metagross comes in and Palutena goes for one more Sparkling Aria and then gets hit hard with a Meteor Mash, being brought down to the red. I switch in Blocky, who loses disguise on the switch in but can take out the Metagross with an Expert Belt Shadow Claw. Bishop is now brought in and I need a clean switch into Jaden if I want any hopes of winning. Blocky lands a critical hit Shadow Claw doing respectable damage, but ultimately falls to an Iron Head from Bishop. Jaden then comes in and gets some revenge for Blocky as he takes it out with a Hidden Power Fire. Klefki is his last Pokemon and Soup can come in and take it out with a few more Moonblasts, giving us the win. Now it's time to take on Hao in the championship match. His Raichu lands a Thunderbolt on Jaden doing good damage, but Jaden responds with a Quiver Dance. Jaden then follows up with a Pollen Puff, taking out the Raichu. Incineroar comes in, so I switch in Palutena, who takes a Z move Inferno Overdrive on the switch. Palutena is just short from taking out the Incineroar with a Sparkling Aria on the next turn, and is brought into the red with an Earthquake. Hao then swaps in Incineroar and brings in Leafeon, who takes big damage from a not very effective Sparkling Aria. I then switch in Pops, who can finish off the Leafeon with a Moonblast. Hao then brings Incineroar back in, and he uses a full restore, healing him back up. I do land a Moonblast, but it does minimal damage. From here, I panic and I switch in Palutena, who gets destroyed by a Flare Blitz. Soup comes in next and a Moonblast does do good damage, but Incineroar survives and takes out Soup with a Flare Blitz while also taking himself out due to recoil. I bring in Jaden and I was not expecting to get outsped by a Tauros, leading him to get destroyed by Double Edge. Pops comes in and can take out the Tauros with a couple of Giga Drains and Leech Seed. Crabominal is next and Pops has one last job to give us any hopes of victory, and that's to land a Leech Seed, which he does before getting taken out with an Ice Hammer. Now I'm down to my last Pokemon, Cobalt. Cobalt lands a big Psychic, bringing him below half health while also eating an Ice Hammer reasonably well, especially after Leftovers and Leech Seed recovery. Cobalt then finishes off the Crabominal with another Psychic, forcing Hao to use his last Pokemon, Noivern. Thankfully for us, Noivern can only tickle Cobalt with Air Slashes, while Cobalt is able to hit hard with Power Gems. Cobalt then finishes off the fight with hitting Noivern with a big Power Gem, taking him out and making us the new champions of Alola. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.